3 road tripping rules. Take the road less travelled. Never the same road twice. And never turn back. And there I was, in the middle of the Karakum Desert, on a road that made nonsense of all of my road trip rules. This was a road, it wasn't really a road, it was a wrecking alley in which going back, reversing, or even going forward was no longer possible. I was concentrating so hard that I didn't notice that I was driving deeper and deeper into trouble until an eagle flew in front of my windscreen and landed on the side of the road. I was distracted for a minute and then nearly drove my poor little wishmobile right into a pothole that could have passed as a swimming pool. I realized it was time to stop and regroup. So I climbed on top of the car, onto its roof, to get an overview of where I was and how I was going to get out of this fix. The horizon was dull, bleak, grey and dusty in every direction. Help wasn't coming from out there. The day didn't start this way. The day actually started fairly normally. I was about 6 months into my solo drive once around the world. I had just been on this particular road. It's a fairly good-looking road. I had no problem with this road. And I just passed this sign and I thought, well, I'm going to get to Kizilorda by lunchtime. This is not a problem at all. And then I saw this sign. This sign is a level of sadism that you don't want to meet up with when you're all alone in a desert with nobody knowing where you are. Well, you don't even know where you are. This sign indicated there were some bumps in the road. The entire road was a bump. Things got worse and worse and worse, until finally there I was, on the top of this hell road. So I'm looking around trying to figure out how to get out of the situation, and there's an off-ramp of sorts. It's a sort of a sloping tip of gravel, but I figure I can get down off this elevated road onto the desert floor, and there I can see there are sand tracks through the desert. Now my experience of the day had told me that sand is kinder to the car than rocks and potholes. So with some negotiating and maneuvering, I got down onto the sand and immediately got stuck in several sand traps. I'd learned a couple of lessons also in my driving through this desert, is that sand requires a certain skill, especially when you're driving a glorified delivery van that has no four-wheel drive. Excellent suspension, four-wheel drive, not so much. But I'd learned that you have to maintain a certain speed. If you go too fast and you hit a bump, your shocks bottom out. That's not so good. If you go too slow, you sink into the sand. Also not so good. So the idea is, I discovered, is to drive at a certain speed and sort of weave slowly from side to side to keep yourself, like you're surfing the sand with a glorified delivery van. And then I wiped out, whop, stuck in the middle of the Karakum Desert. Disaster. Nobody knew where I was. This was before the days of GPS and portable phones and all of that good stuff. There was no call a friend or phone home, or it was me, the desert, and my little car. It was time to regroup. So I stood back, I got myself a fruit juice out of the car, and I looked at the situation, and I realized I needed traction. What did I have? I had a yoga mat, under the wheel that needed the most traction. And then I had some portable cupboard doors, removable cupboard doors. So I took those and I shoved them under the other wheels and pops your uncle. I was free. But by now, the sun was setting. I had been on this hell road for over 12 hours. And I'd only traveled barely 300 kilometers. Time to take a break. So I set up camp within sight of this horrible road, and then I stripped down to my birthday suit, because by now there was sand in places there should never be sand. And I washed down myself, and if anyone was roaming the wild deserts, well, so be it. They would have to just take in my great white nakedness. But you know what I learned with this whole thing is that if you keep heading in the same direction and you're not paying attention to the bigger picture, it's entirely possible that you're driving deeper and deeper into trouble. There are moments that you just need to stop. Let's stop exercise. There are moments you just need to stop. Take a break. Assess the situation. Get the big picture and plan ahead before moving any further. And that is part of what you will learn in this course, in order that you can go on your own grand adventure and come out on the other side able to talk about it.